Currently works for Marone Bio Innovations / ProFarm. It's become ProFarm for new rebranding. Outside of that, I'll keep this short and sweet and make it fast so he can give you a little more of his own background.
Thank you. Yeah, graduated Fresno State, agricultural business, plant science, worked in production ag side on the organic citrus world, and then transitioned over to the manufacturer side of biopesticides. And Jerry, Kyle, thank you for letting me present here today. The smaller setting is great. I changed up my presentation, have a little more science-based. I got some veggie stuff focused for your operation, Stargus and Regalia is on here, and then kind of some more in-depth on those modes of action. And then I want to kind of talk through some diseases, the top issues that you guys are having on your farm too. We can kind of spitball and brainstorm kind of some solutions. And I got some row crop stuff for Roy. So it's nice having, well, and then the gentleman over, you're growing, farming. What's your kind of acreage or crop spread?
Pretty much a grass cattleman. I'm here because I run a feral ride wicking business.
Oh, okay.
And organic and conventional. But 3 years ago, I bought a product called Weed Slayer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I don't know, that summer, 3 months later, it went off market.
Okay.
So I've had it for 3 years. So I brought it here, and Jerry's got a buyer in Kansas or somewhere.
Perfect.
He's going to try it. So yeah.
Moving that inventory out of your house.
We have a lot of organic wheat customers.
Okay.
So I'm always looking for the magic bullet that gets it. So
I had a couple wheat and row crop stuff in the presentation too. So it's balancing between the specialty vegetables and the row crop is kind of how I retooled the presentation. ProFarm is our new name. If you guys aren't familiar, Marone Bio is our previous name. Manufacturer Regalia, Pacesetter, Stargus, Venerate, Grandivo are some of our products. We were bought by BioSeries Crop Solutions out of Argentina, and now we are ProFarm. You will still see the Marone Bio on the labels. I live in Southern California, cover the desert Southwest, service you guys out here in Colorado, Western Nebraska. Here is what we're doing down in Yuma, Arizona. Off season to you guys, so right now all your leafy greens are coming out of Yuma, Arizona, and Imperial County. And this is just kind of some pictures I like to show what we're doing in other crop systems. Here is some romaine lettuce with some red leaf. We got some medjool dates. Citrus is also big in our area. And then we have our green leaf and our red leaf lettuce. Because our growing window is so short in the desert, a lot of stuff is brought in from the greenhouse and transplanted. We do some direct seed vegetables, but a majority are these transplants coming out of the greenhouse to save that germination window. Here is what we call big bed spinach. So any of those prepackaged spinach bags this time of year in the food store, this is where it's coming from. You can see our irrigation method for big bed spinach is solid set sprinklers. What's really nice about solid set sprinklers is you can really fine tune your chemigation of pesticides and fertilizers out there in the field, more so than in a center pivot. And so they'll do like a pre-far herbicide application. They'll do their insecticide shots there. And then they'll also fly it on if it's wet with airplanes or a ground rig for their insecticide applications. But that's kind of direct seed into the big bed. Here is the machinery that harvests that spinach. And you can see this little blade slices off those tops on it and then sends it to the processing plant. And then they package it in those bags and you can find it there on your store shelf. So just something a little different, how we do it out in Yuma, Arizona. Here are the products I want to talk about today. Pacesetter is our row crop fungicide. So this would be for your wheat guys, organic and conventional. Stargus is our downy mildew and Fusarium specific bacillus fungicide. And then our new insecticide, Bountify, our registration got pushed back. So you're going to have it available June, July-ish is what we're thinking. So middle to end season when those aphid thrip populations show up, we should have this new insecticide for you. It is certified organic. We're really excited to launch this into the marketplace. Okay, so jumping back to the row crops. So this is Pacesetter. It's a liquid fungicide. Also, the other brand name is Regalia. Regalia is for our specialty vegetables. So same active ingredient, just different concentrations and different price points for the market segments. Pacesetter for the row crop, it is certified organic. It's an extract of giant knotweed. You can see a picture of the giant knotweed, this invasive species of plant down here in the picture. And then this is the chemical compound that makes up the formulation within Pacesetter. Our Crops that's labeled for, row crops, corn, cereal grains, dry beans, and sugar beets is what's on this label. Diseases it controls, northern corn leaf blight, gray leaf spot, common rust, powdery mildew, and head scab are some of the diseases that's controlled. And we have an IRAC group of P5. So when you're building out your fungicide resistant programs, rotating through your different modes of action, Regalia, or Pacesetter is a P5 classification in that program. Okay, what is Pacesetter and what is Regalia doing? This is the mode of action, what's happening when you applicate this pesticide. So it's induced systemic resistance, ISR. You're turning on the plant's ability to fight off that pathogen infection. There's no contact activity of this product. It's purely promoting that plant's ability to fight off the pathogen. So it's inhibiting this pathogen growth. When you spray Pacesetter on the leaf tissue, that cell absorbs it, and it triggers, the ISR is triggering antimicrobial compounds on a cellular level within the plant. Phenols, phytolexins, and PR proteins are what are being produced within the plant to fight off that pathogen. You're also seeing a lignification, stronger, thicker cell walls, inhibiting that germ tube spore from penetrating that plant. And we also see this stronger, healthier stalks with less lodging on the row crops. From this, and then our third mode of action, it promotes the plant growth. So we see an increase in chlorophyll production after the application of Regalia. It's OMRI listed, minimal PPE is required. So for the conventional growers, you can mix this in with your synthetic fungicides at a lower rate to bring another mode of action and to help out some of those azoxystrobins or some of these other fungicides that we're seeing some resistance with. Chlorophyll. So we are a science-based company, so any claim that I make, I have to follow it with data where we scientifically tested it. Here is treated in orange, untreated here in blue, and then this is the level of chlorophyll production. And as you can see, both chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, we see an increase in production by the plant after the application of Pacesetter and Regalia. And that's, that leads into a yield response, higher yields per acre. And this is a little video. Because it's a small group, I put this in. I usually kind of just do this one-on-one, but this shows, so here's the pathogen. There's the germ tube going into the stomata of the plant, infecting the plant. It goes in there, it's a cellular. So for instance, powdery mildew would be an example. Infects the cells. Now it's starting to reproduce. So this plant was not treated with Regalia. Now you have one infestation, one spore, all it takes. It's germinating, and now it's being spread there in the field. And this is where you're gonna have your disease outbreak on a wider spread. You see thousands of spores, all just from that one. So this next plant has been treated with Regalia. So Regalia is not a contact material, so the spores are still gonna try to penetrate. There's the germ tube going into the stomata, but because of the increased lignification, not every germ tube is gonna be able to penetrate the target plant. So that's your first line of defense. If it does happen to penetrate, now it's going in on a cellular level. And now it's gonna start sucking all the nutrients out of that cell. But because this plant was treated with Pacesetter and Regalia, it's created those PR proteins, phytolexins, those antimicrobial compounds on a cellular level. The disease is in red. PR proteins, phytolexins, antimicrobial compounds are the dark green and green, and they're gonna bind to the pathogen. So this cell now has officially killed the pathogen infection on the cellular level, killing the cell itself, but inhibiting this one spore from germinating and continue to spread and infect the field. and now that powdery mildew has been killed. So disease is still going to be present in the field, but it's limiting the amount of disease. So pairing pace setter or regalia with a contact material, a copper, a sulfur, a peracetic acid, an azoxystrobin, a propiconazole, your other synthetic materials, the combination of those two, we see these really enhanced synergistic effects. So like on your vegetable operation, you're probably using some copper.
Yeah, and that's cool. I mean, looking at it like that, how it works. But we started using it, well, this year we really used it on eggplant.
Oh, good, okay.
And eggplant is like, it's pretty hard to have a really nice eggplant that reaches market, you know? But this year we have like the best eggplant production ever, you know, and it grows on plastic, but we did treat it like with both of them.
Good.
And I think it really worked. So that was, you know, but we do eggplant, cucumbers, melons, you know, all of that. We see less bugs, less powdery mildew, less of everything.
Good. What are your other products that you're using kind of in your fungicide program?
Well, squash we don't eat it on squash, but mainly on cucumber, eggplant, and all of our melons. Those are like our higher value, you know.
Okay.
Because it goes on plastic. There's a lot of input on that. And broccoli, you know.
Okay, yep.
Works really good on broccoli. Baby broccoli, that is.
And I usually recommend the earlier you use regalia or pace setter in the program, you get more of that plant health benefit from it earlier on. So if you can mix regalia in with that first fungicide spray or that first insecticide spray, even your micronutrients, it's compatible with a lot of the fertilizers too. So I try to stack it earlier on, and then it's going to help that plant. We see these PR proteins, these phytolexins, it's about a 7-day response. So after 7 days, you're naked out there is kind of how we say it. And so that's kind of, we recommend every 7 days application. In the row crop world, 1-2 applications is all we're going to really be able to get, and then limp to the end of the season. But on the especially veg, if you got that tractor out there, small amount of pace setter is all you really need. Going back to the row crops, here is a study that we compiled. This is from 2020 to 2022 of our trial summary data, pace setter in corn. So on the y-axis, we have bushels per acre over the standard fungicide program on here. So this is the amount of bushels we increased compared to the synthetic fungicide with the application of pace setter. As you can see, we have our worst performing trial down here, little over probably about a bushel and a half, and our highest performing about 18 bushel increase over the standard. So our win rate, kind of here in the middle, I'm really happy with these numbers. We see about a 3.6% increase with the application of pace setter on your row crops. And that equates about 7.5 bushels per acre is what we see across all of our studies. Here is a picture of pace setter compared to the fungicide. You can see the line darker green over here with the pace setter mixing with the fungicide, and here's just the fungicide alone. That chlorophyll production is what leads to this yield increase, or this visible difference of increased chlorophyll. Stronger, healthier plant, more chlorophyll production leads into higher yields. We can see fungicide only, 14 rows here on this corn stalk, 20 rows here on this pace setter application. Here's another trial, 16 rows on fungicide only, 18 rows on the pace setter. So we do see consistent yield increases. Touching on that lignification. So you see stronger, healthier plants, probably on some of your vegetables, potentially higher growth, healthier stalks. Here is a fungicide only application. As you can see the lodging in that cornfield, a storm had come through, knocked over these stalks. The pace setter and fungicide one, not as much lodging, very light, not visible from a aerial picture. And so that's that increase in lignification, the stronger stalk. And then you see that also in the solanaceous, your vegetable crops, more lignin, stronger, healthier on there. Another pace setter, fungicide spray down here, line there in the dark green, the light green over there in the fungicide. So if you are thinking of using in the corn, if you're going to do one application, typically for your conventional growers, VT to R1 is our recommend spray application. Organically, we try to recommend 2 shots, V6 to VT, and R1 to R2 is how you would position it for corn. Okay, moving on to the wheat. So this might be a little more applicable. So this is an increase in yield. The next one is a disease trial. This one shows on the y-axis, we have yield bushels per acre, Our untreated control coming in at 449, almost 50 bushels per acre. Marvis Ace, a synthetic fungicide mixed with Induce, about 50 bushels. Pace Setter at 6.5 fluid ounces mixed with Tilt, a synthetic fungicide. We see a bump of 54.5 bushels per acre. And then we did a Pace Setter, Emergent, and Tilt. Emergent is one of our new foliar fertilizers, about 55 bushels per acre. So the addition of Pace Setter in with your synthetic fungicides, you see a significant ROI because of that other mode of action and what Pace Setter is doing on a cellular level. And here's kind of a picture of that wheat. Our untreated control here in the left, Marvis Ace, your synthetic fungicide here in the center, and then Pace Setter plus Emergent here on the far right. And you can see greener, healthier stalk on the wheat. Okay, here is Pace Setter for head scab on winter wheat. Head scab rating of 1 to 5. Untreated control here in brown, about 4, skies 4, so disease is present here in the field. Azoxystrobin was sprayed at flex 9. Pace Setter at flex 9. And then Pace Setter mixed with azoxystrobin. So you can see Pace Setter is really holding its weight in this application. For organic wheat growers, I would recommend Pace Setter mixed in with a copper. Badge 2X is a good hydrogenated copper that I've gone out with before. Combination of those two, you get the contact activity of the copper plus the ISR from Pace Setter is a good tank mix. Wheat timings, Flex 5 or between Flex 9 and 10.5. Fleeks, sorry, I always mix that one up. So Supercharge Your Fungicide Program is a slogan we've kind of coined for Pace Setter. You get disease control plus a plant health benefit that results in a yield enhancement with the application of it. Tank mix with compatible with copper, PAA, parasitic acid. Jet Ag is our parasitic acid. I have a couple slides on that. And then sulfur and oils you can mix in there. Multiple modes of action when you add Pace Setter to it, increase yields versus chemistry. And I like to remind P5 is our frac code on here. So going on Regalia, how else are you using Regalia in your vegetable operation?
We just mix it in. You know, we mix it in with a.
More of a foliar spray.
Well, we do all foliar.
Okay.
You know, foliar only our say like fertilizers get chemicated or through the sprinkler, but everything is foliar, and we're constantly doing. And we do it with our with our main, not our main, but our pesticide that we use.
Is it Entrust, Pyganic?
It's Pyganic, mainly Pyganic,
Okay.
and we're also using your
Venerate or Grandiva, I think.
Grandiva.
Okay.
You know,
Excellent.
We use Grandiva, we use Entrust, we try mixing it up, not staying with one. That agro pest.
Okay.
I like that one.
The time oil.
But it's just keeping it going.
No, it's a challenge. Yeah, the rotation is key. What's nice about Regalia, we have no pH requirements, whereas in Trust, that pH is critical to make sure it works there, and so that's where Regalia, you can mix it in there, no issues at all on that tank mix. The flexibility. Okay, Stargus is our Bacillus product. This is going to be focused more on the specialty vegetable side. Price point, it's priced out of the row crop market. I don't know if you've talked about Stargus or if you've used.
We have a little bit, yes.
Okay. In my mind, on the specialty vegetables, I position Regalia for Pace Setter and Stargus for downy mildew. If you're having downy mildew issues, Stargus would be the product to go to. Powdery mildew, Pace Setter would be the product I'd use. Well, what is Stargus? Stargus is a Bacillus amyloidocapacious strain 727. There's a handful of Bacillus products out in the marketplace. I was going to review those. Liquid formulation, I think the shelf life is 4 years now. We got an extension. No special storage requirements on it. These Bacillus species we're finding are a hardier microbe, so they can handle temperature fluctuations. Survivability in formulation is a lot better. And then very similar to all the OMRI listed products, 4-hour REI, 0-day pre-harvest interval. So worker flexibility is nice on there. This brown liquid formulation stays suspended in solution nicely, And then this is it colonizing. One of the modes of action is colonization on the leaf tissue of Stargus, and this is that colonization there on a Peachtree dish. So this is what's happening there on the leaf or in the root substrate. And what is Stargus doing? The modes of action, so we have these active molecules called peptides within the formulation. They're attacking that germ tube. So you're getting some contact activity from Stargus. The reason some guys will mix, they'll do a Regalia Stargus spray for powdery mildew because of this contact. We still get powdery mildew activity on Stargus. I like to use Regalia first if I can only get one shot, but you could do a tank mix of Stargus and Regalia for powdery mildew because you get this contact activity of it on there. Induced systemic resistance. So the bacilluses are turning on the plant's immune system, very similar to Regalia, different pathways to fight off that infection, and then you get that leaf and root colonization from it. And then this has a fungicide classification of BMO2. I really like to point out all of our fungicides and products are EPA registered. There's an extra step of registration going through that, and you're given a FRAC code in time. Okay, here's some downy mildew. So this is where we really see Stargus shine. This was out with Dr. Pudell Ward, University of Arizona, on spinach. Mean percent infection on the axis, untreated control, disease was present. Quava, which is a copper, I think it's Bayer's copper, organic. Vassaplant, not sure what that is. Dexter Max, not sure. And then here's our Stargus at 4 quarts per acre, controlling on par with the other products. So when you mix Stargus with a copper, the combination of those two is where we see the best results. Here is going up against double nickel and Sonata. Stargus at 2 quarts, Sonata at 3, double nickel. The lower the bar graph, the percent severity, the less severity out there in the field. This is what makes our claims for positioned against downy mildew on our positioning against the other products. Now here's an interesting, and the row crop guys, you might find this product useful, JetAg. JetAg has a parasitic acid oxidizer. The price point fits into the row crop market, oxidizes the leaf tissue. There's a lot of dry bean guys that will put it in through the center pivot for white mold control. And I think for vegetables too, I think you could take advantage of this in your spray tanks. So what we've done is we're going after Fusarium, a soil-borne pathogen, with a mixture of Stargus and JetAg. But I've also mixed Stargus and JetAg as a foliar spray for downy and powdery. The parasitic acid oxidizes the disease pathogen, and then the Stargus recolonizes and turns on the ISR. So the combination of those two, and especially vegetables, could be another unique fungicide tank mix. Whereas on row crops, I would think just the JetAg parasitic acid alone would be a good sterilant on the field. And this was a trial that I put in here. Fusarium oxysporum head lettuce is a real big challenge for lettuce growers. So it's a soil-borne pathogen. It infects the roots. You can see the dead root tissue in there, and then it leads to these, it just melts. So that one hasn't been infected yet, but it's just really significant yield loss in the field. And so what we did, this is the grower standard. They didn't do any treatment, just a normal fertility program. They were trying different varieties. So you can see Fusarium usually is in a circle in the field. It spreads in these circles. This area is infected. And then this was a JetAg Stargus at plant germination water application. You can see this very uniformity of there. And you might think I just cherry picked the best looking spot, but this field looked darn good with that. We just had uniformity out there with that application. What we did, first application of germ water on solid set irrigation, we did 20 parts per million of JetAg, followed by 2 quarts per acre over the top with the Stargus. And then here's the NIR imagery of it. Here's the grower standard. The picture, I was standing over here. Of course, I'm gonna take a picture in the worst part of the block. But there's this, you can see almost down to the variety. This was a different variety. They're testing out susceptible varieties out there. And so this one performed well. But this is where this variety definitely showed more Fusarium than next door. And then this block was on the other side of the ditch. So when you look at this, the Fusarium is all in this area. So it made me feeling good seeing the good uniform and consistent control when we were right next to the infected field where we knew Fusarium was present. And in the previous season, they had Fusarium issues out there. So here's just another picture of that grower standard plus JetAg and Stargus. And we just saw it. With this application, we were targeting Fusarium by hypothesizing with the cooperator, the grower, and the PCA, and we think this uniformity also came from the elimination of the other pathogens in the soil. So you had Rhizoctonia, other for your broccolis. If you have, there's some other broccoli diseases where it could benefit from a Jet Ag Stargus application at transplant or with the germination water. Are you guys doing transplant for your brassicas?
We get them from California, yes.
Okay. So this is where like that transplant irrigation shot, you could do this little mixture in there, might be an interesting application. Okay, so what is Jet Ag? Jet Ag is a sanitizer. It's a parasitic acid. PAA is kind of a shortened version of it. It's an organic peroxide-based product. Smells like vinegar. The acetic acid is a vinegar base, so when you smell it, it has this vinegar burning smell of it. It's our blend, hydrogen peroxide plus acetic acid, plus acetic acid makes parasitic acid, and then we just dilute it with vinegar to get a 5% concentration. The primary mode of action is oxidation. The mechanism of oxidation is a transfer of electrons. So you spray it on the leaf tissue, contacts that disease spore, and it just explodes and kills it on there. Once it dries, no residual, instant contact, lasts about like 25, 30 minutes is what we see out in the field. Once it's dry, there's no oxidation, no residual control. So pairing it with another fungicide is where you see the best results using the product. And then there is the chemical formulation for the science guys in the room. And organically and sustainably, it breaks down to hydrogen and oxygen. So it's water and air is the compounds of it. Okay, last product. How am I doing on time? Bountify. So this one, I'm really excited. This product, we're positioning it to take Entrust. This would replace your Entrust shots in broad spectrum control of it. What is it? Bountify, the active ingredient is Burkholderia reingensis strain A396 and spent fermentation media. So it's a soil bacterium that we've created that has insecticidal properties when sprayed to the insect. It's a foliar application specifically for the specialty vegetables. Rate is going to be 20 fluid ounces per acre. And once you get some cost from Jerry, you'll really, that Entrust, I mean, it's a lot cheaper than Entrust. So this will be a good replacement. Target insects, aphid, thrips, worms, and mites on there. I left mites off. So broad spectrum control on it. Sustainable product, minimal PPE, no 4-hour REI, no tolerance. And then mode of action, Bountify kills insects through ingestion. Insect stops feeding on the plant shortly after ingesting Bountify, preventing further damage to plant tissue. Bountify, we're seeing as a translaminar product, so it goes into the upper layer of the cambium of the leaf tissue, creating more residual of the product. Right now, we're trying to figure out how long the residual of the new product is, but you spray it on there, it's going in that leaf tissue. The insect's going to chew on that leaf tissue, ingest the Bountify bacteria, and that's what's going to lead to the gut disruption. So if you have a rain event, you don't have to worry about the rain washing that bacteria off from it. We're really trying to figure out how we can we say translaminar, how we can drive that molecule either up the plant or through the plant to get those pest populations on the bottom side of the leaf. If we can figure out how to do that with an organic compound, I mean, it'd be blockbuster, but we're still working on it. We say translaminar, it doesn't go all the way through, it just sits in that upper cambium of the leaf tissue. The benefit is it doesn't get washed off after a rainstorm and longer residual of it. Here's kind of some data initially coming out. So we put it up against Assail. I mean, Assail and Movento are two synthetic standards. We did average aphids per plant. So you can see three different times we did the counts out there. Untreated control, aphid populations were present. Assail, Movento, yeah, they're good synthetic fungicides or insecticides. You put Bountify up there, I mean, we're blown away. I mean, we're positioning this in the conventional market. So for organic growers, this is going to be a blockbuster, a game changer for those programs. And then here is with Dr. Palumbo for Lepidopteran. This year it was a light. In 2021 we had a light worm pressure, but you can see average worms per plant, cabbage looper and beet armyworm. So there were some bugs out there. Zentari at 2 pounds controlled them, Entrust at 5 fluid ounces controlled them, and then Bountify at 10 fluid ounces controlled them. And then here is beet armyworm against Asana. Mean number of damaged fruits on tomatoes. So there was a good amount in the untreated control of damaged tomatoes. Asana XL, fairly good control, and then Bountify at 16 fluid ounces, substantial control compared to the synthetic standard. So this preliminary data, we're really excited for Bountify. As soon as we get the EPA label registration, we will make sure to get you guys all the organic paperwork so that you can kind of get it on your approved list, and then you can start spraying it. Because it's going to be, organically, it's going to be a game changer. We're just waiting, we're waiting every day. We're waiting, when's that EPA going to get back to us? Because once they get it, it's going to be floodgates open.
Right.
Well, the Jet Ox,
Yes. So I was
the
just
Jet Ox has a higher concentration of the same stuff, Ozzy. And, you know, the cost per parts per million is going to be considerably less. The one question I had that I need to ask Brian is, I think in irrigation water sanitation, even though it's not necessarily an OMRI product, we can use it in that scenario, can't we? Oh. Because there's some, you might know more about that than I do, but we've looked that up and it's pretty gray at this point in time. But
see, because Jet Ag 5% is OMRI certified. See, I don't think Oxidate is OMRI certified.
their 2.0 is.
There is? Okay, see, and that's where it gets expensive, because our 15% comes down to that water treatment rate. I think it's like $1.20 per 1,000 gallons. So it's cheap. I mean, it's really cheap.
Well, we'll have to look into it.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, we'll check on that, see what we can learn from our end, and
Yeah.
because last year I remember when we were looking at that, when you brought that up to Jerry, it was pretty fuzzy on exactly what we could get away with there, even though it's same product and higher concentration.
Yeah, let me ask the guys down in Yuma about that on that organic cert. So they're
How often are they doing it?
So they have to do, I think it's like 24 days before harvest, the irrigation water overhead has to be treated. But we also have a lot of there's the growers, everyone likes to sue each other in Yuma. So the growers contract out their spraying. So it's custom sprayers are spraying it. So the custom sprayers don't want the liability, because if there's a food contamination that the grower, then they blame the applicator. So the applicators are now treating all their spray tank water too. So that might be for your operation, treating your spray tank water, because the Leafy Green Commission realized anything going over top of the lettuce 24 days before harvest is considered a potential pathogen infection area. So that's where they're treating their spray tank and then also their irrigation water at the same time. So there's two.
You're required to treat your irrigation water all the time, aren't you?
We're having to.
Or different times through the growing season anyway.
Yeah, and it's just getting ridiculous. And I guess what they're doing now is going more in like the UV treatment rather than, like sanitation.
Chemical.
But I don't know, it's just.
So even chlorine, a lot of guys are like, chlorine dioxide's a lot cheaper than peracetic acid. So I think there's a lot of talk of the UV and then the kind of backing up. But I read somewhere when you have the UV, the manufacturers of those UV tubes, they don't want to take the liability if there's a foodborne pathogen outbreak. So they're saying follow up with a chemical application.
Yeah.
So when I read that, it's like they're selling a product, but they still want you to treat it with chlorine or PAA. So it's all liability when it comes down to it. And how the best growers that I see, they have a really good SOP, and that SOP is what protects them from the lawsuits. So documenting everything, having your SOP down would be I'd say the first place to start.
Well, yeah, and as a final precaution, I guess, we are using it in the hydro cooler, and where everything gets washed out at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still in the field. It just makes it, I don't know, it just makes it difficult.
And keep in mind, I don't think you have frost and freeze issues. What we were finding in Yuma, we had a cold winter, and we get blistering on the romaine, and those blisters would pop, and then the bacteria was getting inside those blisters. So even when there was chlorinated water or sterilizing water at the hydro cooler, the bacteria was already in that blister, and they'd cool it, and it wasn't getting into that blister, and then that's where they traced some foodborne outbreaks to that blister. But you're not having those freezing cold temperatures.
Not in the growing season of lettuce.
So that's kind of, I think, more of a regional specific. But you start talking.
I know what you're talking about when you say blisters, but I haven't seen it
But that food safety piece, it really,
That's,
yeah. And it all the liability is all down on the grower. Because even as a manufacturer, we have these disease pathogens listed in there, and we've skirted the liability too. It's a really unique realm. But I'll look on that jet oxide, because that would be I think the cost-effective
Right.
option for you. And what I like about the jet oxide, I think it's like 7 fluid ounces per 1,000 gallons of water is required, but we have a label all the way up to 14 fluid ounces per 1,000. And if you do that higher rate, you get fungicidal activity from it too. If you do that through the solid set sprinklers. Are you all furrow or drip?
overhead sprinkler.
Overhead sprinklers.
Sprinklers is good.
So you do that high rate of jet oxide once a week, that's contact fungicide right there. So that could be another, build it in almost as a fungicide spray and then check the box for food safety. Because I had a grower, he was spraying Jet Ag 5% once a week. He had his own spray rig, so he was able to do it. He'd go across, and that was his powdery mildew control. And I think the cost was half of what Regalia or the other fungicides were. And every week he would just drive the tractor with Jet Ag, sterilize those leaves, and he was happy. Like he had good control.
How much water do you put on it to pass with a sprinkler?
Oh, it's 860 gallons per minute, and so you're putting on like 0.25 inches of water.
Okay.
So it's
You got to run a pretty high concentration then to get the
gotta be high.
parts per million up there. Because I didn't think you had any high-speed pivots, but I didn't know, because they're high-speed pivots a dream for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're sucking out of a canal
Out
irrigation.
of an open ditch, a pond or lake.
Because we'll see in Yuma, they'll suck it out of the canal. They'll have their little tank of parasitic acid that's metered into that irrigation pipe.
Through a chemigation system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, yeah, we'll make sure we'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even the row crop guys, there's still Jet Ag and Jet Oxide is a unique fungicide worth playing with. And that concludes my time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Great.
All right.